Okay, good morning. So we are going to continue our discussion with regards to the information system in the enterprise. So we have here an overview of the transaction processing system. Transaction processing system were among the earliest computerized systems. So their primary purpose is to record, process, validate, and store transactions that take place in the various functional areas of a business for future retrieval and use. So a TPS is an information system that records company transactions, which is a transaction is defined as an exchange between two or more business entities. So dito, all the transactions, whether it's an input or an output, so we use a transaction processing system. So the characteristic of transaction processing system is it records internal and external transactions for a company. So it is a repository of data that is frequently accessed by other systems. It performs routine, repetitive tasks. So it is mostly used by lower level manager to make operational decisions. So we use TPS or the data we retrieve from transactional processing system in order to make decisions on our day-to-day business operations. So transaction can be recorded in batch mode or online. In batch mode, the files are updated periodically, while in online mode, the transaction is recorded as it occurs. So on the time of the transaction, it will be recorded if the system is in online mode. So there are 6 steps in processing transactions. They are the data entry, data validation, data processing, and revalidation, storage, output generation, and query support. So what are the features of TPS? So TPS supports different tasks by imposing a set of rules and guidelines that specify how to record, process, and store a given transactions. So each TPS, meron siyang kanya-kanyang process or kanya-kanyang nire-require na input and nire-require na output. So there are many uses of transaction processing system in our everyday lives, such as when we make a purchase sa mga retail store, convenience store, deposit, and withdraw money at the bank, register for class at university. So almost all organizations, regardless of the industry which they operate, they have manual or automated TPS. So lahat ng mga system na ginagamit natin, so they have transaction processing system. Kasi yung data, yung mga transaction na ginagawa natin, especially for example, pagdating sa withdrawal at sa deposit. So napakahalaga na lahat ng data during our transaction is ma-record, ma-save, at in case of some issues, kaya nating i-retrieve yung ating mga data. So TPS is also the main link between the organization and external entities such as customer supplies, distributors, and regulatory agencies. So later on, marami tayong mga example dun sa mga TPS natin, paano ba nagpa-process yung mga data and information. So TPS exists for the various functional areas in an organization. So yung TPS, ginagamit na rin siya for finance, accounting, manufacturing, production, human resources, marketing, quality control, engineering, and research development. So almost every part, every functional areas of organization, napaka-importante nung TPS or nag-exist yung TPS natin. So until a few years ago, many companies viewed the TPS for each business function as separate entity with little or no connection to other system. So today, however, many companies are trying to build cross-functional TPS. So when we say cross-functional TPS, the TPS between the finance and the accounting, between the production and the human resources are interconnected or cross-functional. So here is def, uh, further a definition or discussion of the transaction processing system. So we have here the TPS on the bottom part. We have here the management information system and the decision support system and the special information system. So if you're going to check the characteristics of transaction processing system in terms of data, so the TPS is the uh, gateway for the input of data to transfer it to our information system and decision support system up to special information system to become an information. In terms of routine, in terms of how we are going to use our information system, TPS is more routinary than our other information system. In terms of decision support, mostly TPS kasi hindi natin siya masyadong ginagamit for decision support. Why? Because only data lang yung available doon sa system na yon. However, it will be transferred to information na magagamit natin siya more in terms of decision support. In terms of input and output, sinabi ko nga kanina, si TPS kasi yung nagiging gateway in terms of the exit and the entrance of our data. So, mostly of our input and output ay nangyayari kay transaction processing system. But in terms of sophistication and complexity of processing and analysis, so hindi natin masyado nagagamit si transaction processing system in terms of analysis. So, doon pa rin tayo, doon sa mga special information system, sa mga decision support system. Okay? So what is the traditional transaction processing? So the method of objective. So we have here the batch processing system, online transaction processing, online entry with delayed processing, process data generated by and about transaction, so process data generated for and about transaction, maintain and high degree of accuracy and integrity, produce timely documents and report. So later on, i-discuss natin siya. So traditional transaction processing method and objective. So we have the increased labor efficiency. Kasi madalas if we have information system, kumbaga manually hindi na natin ginagawa yung pag-create ng data, the forms, so yun. Help provide improved service, mamaya discuss natin. Help build and maintain customer loyalty and achieve competitive advantage. So we have here a transaction processing system, batch versus online transaction processing. So we have here the batch processing. So data of entry are accumulated transactions. So ibig sabihin, ina-accumulate muna yung data and it will be processed in batch and it will be output also in batch. While the online transaction processing, we have here different terminals wherein transactions are immediately processed, data are immediately processed after each transaction. So for example, we have here 5 terminals and the central computer processing. So for example, if we are in a grocery store, so we have a different terminals o a different cashier natin tinatawag, yung mga terminals natin doon. So what is the online transaction system is every time na magta-transact yung isang terminal, automatically nagpa-process na siya dun sa central computer processing. Maybe possible andito yung data ng inventory kung saan ilan na lang yung titira sa ating product, sa store. So yun. So bakit nga natin sinasabi na it can increase labor efficiency? Una, in terms of transaction processing system, na ma-maximize natin yung tao natin na hindi na natin kailangan na siya mag-isip, i-check kung ano magpagano yung presyo. So, ganun. Help provide improved efficient service. Siyempre, pag meron tayong transaction processing system, mas mabilis yung transaction ng ating mga customers doon sa mga terminal or doon sa mga cashier na pinupuntahan nila. Help build, maintain customers' loyalty. Siyempre, pag na-improve yung service, nagustuhan nila yung service natin, so it will maintain the loyalty of our customers. And if we have customers loyalty, then it will be a competitive advantage in our industry. So we have here the integration of firms TPS. Okay, so let's start by the employee. So as employee, ikaw yung employee. So the purchase order request. So for example, si procurement, nag-order siya ng gantong raw materials. So the raw materials, packing, spare parts, inventory. Kasi ang pagbabasehan naman ni employee ng ating procurement is the inventory dun sa ating warehouse. So after niya ma-check, if may kulang, so we will purchase order processing. This wherein the purchase order will be transferred to the supplier. Where is the supplier? The materials and the i-invoice niya yung materials and then i-receive niya yung invoice ng ating employee. So, after that, it will be turned to the accounts payable. Ibig sabihin, it will be the accounts payable for the our manufacturing firm o yung sa pinagtatrabahuhan ni employee. Okay? So, after that, sorry. So, after that, the accounts payable will be transferred to the general ledger of the company wherein mag-reflect yun doon na ito yung kailangan nilang bayaran kay supplier. So those general ledger will be also transacted to the budget if based on budget is target pa tayo or within our budget. Okay? So after that, so meron na tayong parts, meron na rin tayong raw materials for our manufacturing. Kumbaga, nag-transfer na siya dun sa ano yung magkano yung babayaran natin. So for the customer, we have the customer per orders request. So si customer mag-order ng request, but our TPS will check if our finished product inventory is enough to supply dun sa request order ng ating customer. So the inventory status will be transferred to the order entry, order configuration. So it will be to, if there will be available, it will be, the orders will be transferred to shipment planning. So shipment planning, sabihin, i-approve na yung order ng ating customer. So after natin i-approve, the shipment execution wherein we have to pick dun sa ating inventory, ano yung order ng ating customer. So the items and the quantities, yung ilan. And it will be, the product will be transferred to our customers after the shipment execution. So after also the shipment execution, the invoicing o yung kailangan bayaran ni customers is transfer din sa kanya. So the amounts owed by the customer, so the customer will transfer the payment and it will be transferred to the accounts receivable na meron tayo sa ating ledger. So those accounts receivable will also be transacted to our budget. Kasi always the TPS, kumbaga, automatically chine-check niya based on budget ba yung ating nagiging transaction. So, lahat ng transaction natin na may kinalaman sa cost or sa pera will be transferred to amounts general ledger. Okay? So, as for the employee, so we have here his or her time cards. So, ang gagawin niya, the employee, i-check ng payroll kung magkano yung kanyang sasweldohin. And then, yung labor cost, so si payroll, bibigyan niya ng paychecks o yung sweldo ng employee. And then, because the labor cost will be also transferred to general ledger and will be transferred also to our budget. So, ganyan yung integration ng TPS between the organization. So, complex, but makikita natin na all information, all the data are being stored and readily available once nakunin natin siya. Okay?